Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. My name is Christopher James Obrisky. Everyone calls me Chris O though. And this is my story of from fear to freedom, and my life story, which is a redemption story really. Everything's kind of leading up to the epoch of my life. So let me just kind of give you a download of like what all that means, what it's about, and then I'll get into some of the history. I'll start like from the beginning, really, like when I was born and all that, and just kind of give you my life story up until what I'm dealing with right now, which is especially me making that transition of like living in fear to living in freedom. And yeah, so anyway, the mission of this whole thing is to share my experience in life with the goal to show the capability that lies within everyone, and what I believe is the meaning to life. To inspire people to come together and make change in their own lives, and in turn, change the world. By changing how we govern ourselves, we will change how we are being governed. Because the battle of good and evil is real, and as above, so below, as within, so without. One of the most ancient texts we have on our planet. And I truly believe that. And I think I'm coming to find the more that I just change myself, maybe that is changing the world, because as above, so below, as within, so without. We are all that connected. I believe. Anyway, along with all that, this is also my RSVP to Dr. Jordan Petersons' invitation to the ARC, which is the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. And it definitely resonates within my spirit. It's something that I've been feeling for quite some time. So to see these things start to manifest, it's really encouraging. It's really awesome. And I want to be a part of that. So I still got some work to do in order to get there. We'll see how it all unfolds. But that's the beauty of the great mystery, I guess. So, and in that response, before I start getting into, my story and all that stuff, some of the questions that I have to Dr. Peterson, I guess they line up with his questions as well. It's like, oh, here we go. As far as like creating positive change and doing something different, like on a whole nother scale. Like I think everyone can pretty well see that some change is needed globally and individually, because I don't think it can happen globally without the individual change. Anyway, so one of the questions is, what is truly important in life, and how do we honor or portray that? What are we going to do to start honoring the cycles of life and all life on this planet and throughout the universe? What kind of future are we creating for our children and the next generation and the generations to come? What changes can we make to create abundant, flourishing planet, country, nation, state, city, community, family, and self, which that's kind of backwards. It really got to start with self, family, community, city, state, nation, country, planet, universe. And with those questions, like, how do we do that on a spiritual level, educationally, governmentally, socially, physically, as far as personal health, and personally, Again, if we change how we govern ourselves, we will change how we are being governed. And boy, of all the people to be proclaiming that, a lot of my life I did not govern myself very well, So I guess without further ado, we will jump into my story. So I was born July 11th, 1986. Robin and Stanley Obrisky, my mom and dad, both Christians. They both come from pretty broken homes, lots of alcoholism and drug addiction. And they wound up meeting out here in Orville, California, at a place called Honey Rock, which was like a Christian ranch, like commune type thing where people came together and were just like working off the land and trying to get their lives together, and pursue God. Which for the longest time, like, was really difficult for me, just like growing up in it and having it shoved down my throat. But anyway, we'll get there. So born to them, shortly after I was born, my mom and dad found out that my dad was sick and had HIV, and he was dying, and there was nothing they could do. And when I was 14 months old, he died. And that definitely laid foundation for how my life would go, let alone how much they prayed into me. I didn't know that till later. I was never really spiritual until, I guess I never really was committed to spirituality and solidly believed in it until much later in life. Anyway, so my dad passes away, and my mom and I wound up moving up to Seattle, Washington, where she stayed with some people that she used to work with in Germany, with an organization called YWAM, which stands for Youth with a Mission. It's a Christian, like, mission outreach organization. So we stayed up there for a little bit, not long, and then from 2 to 5, we lived in Kona, Hawaii, on the Big Island, and she worked with the University of the Nations, which was also part of YWAM. And she was working for my Uncle David and Aunt Carol Boyd, who are very close people in my life. This is a very good time in my life, living in Hawaii, and just like the different experiences that I had there. And I was very blessed to grow up in, like, despite growing up without a dad most of my life, I was very blessed to have a pretty good childhood. My mom loves me and cares about me unconditionally. Thank God. Thank you, Mom, for all the shit you put up with. I'm so blessed to have such a good mother. Oh, you're the best, Mom. Anyway, so the week I turned 5, we wound up moving back to the mainland and move back to Orville, California, where I was born. And that would become home base pretty much for, that's home. Love it. Anyway, so we get there, and my mom gets back in with, the community that she had at Honey Rock and stuff like that. I wound up growing up in, like, church a lot. The home church I went to was called Trinity Bible Church. Everybody knows it kind of as the Smurf Church across the street from the Southside Mini Mart. Not a good place in town. But yeah, anyway, Don North was the pastor at the time. I got to grow up with the Norths and their family and the Galloways and all sorts of different awesome people, Converses, all sorts of awesome families that I got to grow up with. It was a very tight-knit community. And I got to be very blessed to, like, for the most part, be surrounded with Christians that were not hypocritical. They believed in loving people, period. Regardless of what you believe, doesn't matter. We believe we should love you. And if you got any questions about it, by all means, we're here to, answer whatever we can answer, and love you along the way. Which is what I really believe is it's all about, man. The Bible says the one that does not know love does not know God, because God is love. And, through a lot of the experiences of my life that you'll come to hear about, I've been so blessed to be surrounded by love of that magnitude, and it's changed my life. It's really got me to believe and know without a doubt that God is very real, and divine purpose is real, and at least from my experiences. And hopefully this story will, show that in a tangible way, and encourage people to make change in their own life and realize that anything is possible. Thought plus action equals manifestation. We're able to consciously co-create with the great creator on such an amazing level. It's like mind-blowing. I'm still starting to figure it all out. But anyway, back to the story. So from 5 on up to like 7th grade, going to church every Sunday, kind of mandatory with mom, and grew up out in Thermalito, and my mom, owned her own home and stuff like that. We never really had much, never really had like a, gaming system, and like I didn't have TV for a long time, and never had cable. But my mom always saved, and every summer we'd always go on mission trips. So like I got to explore the world at a very young age and get a lot of culture all over this country, Europe. So I was very blessed in that regard to like be exposed to lots of culture and stuff like that. Anyway, so 5 to 7, so growing up in Trinity Bible Church, was private school, went to Orville Christian School. And about my 7th grade year, I started, I guess being rebellious, that teenage years of adolescence and stuff like that. And I remember, I don't know, it's been a while. I'm 36 now, so, and a lot of other things since then that certainly affects my memory, but I don't remember as 10, 12, or 13. I'm pretty sure it's 12 or 13. I used to always pray that, God would give me a new dad. It was always something that was really hard growing up to like see my friends, having good times with their dads and, not ever having that. And, really wanting to have that in my life, especially in my teenage years, trying to figure out, who am I, individually, and where I come from, my history, especially on my dad's side. His side of the family is all from New York and stuff. So growing up out here in California, I was just surrounded with my mom's side of the family, which was really awesome. Bunch of really good people, but I never really got to know my dad's side, and so there was always kind of this part of me that was searching for that. But I remember, I was praying on that birthday, and like that was the last birthday I prayed for God to give me a new dad, because I started like, I didn't think that, like if God's really real and like this unconditional love and God is love, how can you allow all these things to happen, made me hurt, I felt all this pain. I was mad, I was pissed at God, like, man, like why, why can't I have a new dad, why, So anyway, that was just like something that really stuck out to me. And part of going through this story of my life, again, a lot of this is, this is my RSVP to Jordan Peterson and the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. So I want to kind of just explain where I came from, things that stuck out to me, and where I'm going. And also, like, this is a redemption story. Like, I have, like, been going through hell lately. And finally coming out of it. So anyway, I'm going to save that for a little bit later. But so 7th grade, going into 8th grade, we'll hit like 8th grade through like high school-ish, So like 8th grade, I started, went to public school, and really got exposed to like the world, I'd grown up in such like a controlled, sheltered environment and such a tight-knit community. Like I never really was exposed to a lot of the different ways of the real world, which can be harsh and ruthless, especially kids, man. Kids can be especially ruthless, especially that age. And growing up in Christianity and like wearing Christian clothes, I remember like being ridiculed and stuff like that. And especially that age, just kind of wanting to fit in and find my place, like, I don't know, it jaded me and hurt me a little bit about all that. But anyway, going to public school, I Found out that pot was not something that a flower grew in, but it was a flower, and you can smoke it. And man, do I like smoking pot. I have been struggling so hard lately to quit, because I believe it's what I got to do in order to handle these next things in life. But, so 8th grade to 36, I've been smoking weed almost every day. Unless I was incarcerated, or I might have a day here or there, but other than that, smoking every day for a long time, and I guess I was really going into my rebellious stage, especially with, my mom. She just, I guess at times it felt like all she had was like me and God, and I just kind of felt smothered by her and by God, especially a teenage boy growing up, going through puberty and all that. No offense, Mom. You're the best. I love you so much. Thank you so much. You're so awesome. But I remember that was really difficult, especially as I was, finding myself, and I'm like, hey, I'm going this way. I like this. This feels good. I'm going to be smoking weed. This is that's my thing. And deal with it, Mom, and that really brought a lot of division between us, and a lot of separation, just because of, her own personal views of life. And, obviously that doesn't really line up with Christianity so much, according to biblical standards. Body is a temple, keep it pure. So my teenagers were pretty rough with my mom. We certainly didn't get along at times. I think especially because we're so much alike, kind of drive each other nuts at times. But anyway, so I remember, my freshman year, I wound up getting kicked out of high school, or suspended from high school for smoking weed. Got busted with a friend of mine smoking pot, and my mom was all concerned, wanted to go into private or to charter school, like homeschool and stuff like that. And finally, my junior year, I wanted to just get my GED, because I was like, man, public school compared to the private school that I've been going to was I was 3 grades ahead, doing pre-algebra my 7th grade year, you know what I mean, to my freshman year again, or doing algebra my 7th grade year, and then my freshman year, finally, they have me doing pre-algebra, because that's just how the public school curriculum was, And I remember going through high school, and a lot of I know the information, but I was not going to do homework. Fuck that. My time was mine. And of course, that did not go over very well with a lot of my teachers. I was just being rebellious. And, my grades definitely showed because of that. Anyway, towards the end of the high school, I really started getting more into hanging out and partying with different friends and stuff like that. Started drinking, eventually leading into other drugs, cocaine, meth. Later on in life, be heroin, pills. I've done probably every drug under the sun that I know of, other than ayahuasca. And if I ever do, that would be for a spiritual level. But I don't know if that's necessary anymore in life after some of these experiences I have. And I really don't want to consume substances anymore, which we'll get to that. But anyway, so, high school was pretty hard, party hardy, and wound up going up to Seattle. When I was 18, I went up to Seattle, Washington, and wound up spending some time with Tom and Terry Bragg, the people that my mom had worked in Germany with YWAM. They have a publishing warehouse up there for YWAM. And they just kind of given me a shot, I was wanting to get change and kind of get out of this environment. And they're just giving me a chance to, see what I had and try to make something new for myself. And while I was up there, we got to go and do a bunch of different things. I remember going to Estes Park with Tom, and super awesome out in Colorado, really beautiful. It's also the hotel where they filmed The Shining is there, beautiful area. Anywho, at the end of that, I remember I had gone through the shop with another dude, and we were like, they happen to have like a gas-powered airsoft pistol, and I was like way into that type of shit at the time. And I was so caught up with selfishness and self-centeredness at the time. I'm still trying to get out of it. But I remember like being like, hey, well, I want this gun. I don't have any money, but boy, I got access to this envelope. We've been selling all these books, I just grab like $160 out of there. No one's going to notice, you know what I mean? And I did, and got that, and no one knew. No one knew. And I came back and was working there for a while, and I remember it was like a month or so had gone by, and I was talking to this dude I work with, Jeff, and just out of the blue on a hunch, he's just asking me, if there's, anything I wanted to get off my chest, if there's anything bothering me, and so for whatever reason that struck a chord with me, man. Like I was like, that guilt from that was like eating me up inside, but of course I didn't want to admit to it, because then you gotta get in trouble, who wants to deal with all that, Well, anyway, through talking with Jeff, I wound up, I let him know what happened and all that shit. And before we were talking, he's like, loyalty, honesty, most important things to me. So, just be honest with me, and, I will be loyal, I'm not here to, go tell anybody or anything. Well, of course, after telling him, I'm just this new punk kid working at the place, His loyalty is by far stronger with Tom and Terry, and so, of course, he went and let them know what was going on and what he had found out. And gosh, I remember feeling so horrible going up to Tom and Terry, because I lived in their basement, I just felt so horrible, like going up and talking to them and like, admitting my wrong and just like weeping, because I just felt so shitty about myself. And that's been like, you'll hear throughout the story, I've had issues with that, and like having self-control and struggling with selfishness and greed, and kind of where that's got me, which has not been very nice, It's a lot easier to just discipline yourself and do the right thing than it is if the world disciplines you. From my personal experiences. So anyway, I make it right, and things go on for a little bit more up there, but in essence, I, get back into smoking pot, and because I had gone up there to kind of get away, and I had quit for a few months, and wasn't long before I sought it out and found it, and things were just kind of same old same. So eventually, it all just wound up falling apart up there, and I wound up coming back down, and I think it was 2006 I made it back down, and maybe 2005. And so, anyway, just, back in Orville and just kind of hustling and doing my thing, selling pot and kind of whatever I can to just like make a buck and keep partying and hang out with my friends and shit. My mom wound up getting a job offer to go work with this place called the Foundation, or the Cedars, back in D.C. Actually, I think that's in Alexandria, Virginia, specifically. But anyway, working with like a political realm, again, a bunch of people that were followers of Jesus, and but like doing big, awesome things. So proud of her. And she gave me the option to go with her, or stay. And I was, I just got my 215 at the time, and I'm trying to grow this weed and shit in the backyard. And I'm like, nah, I'm staying here. That's not for me. I'm doing this, and wound up having to pull up all my plants because she wound up selling and moving before harvest. Had some resentment over that, which I finally let go of. And just I had some resentment for her leaving, and moving away, just because just kind of felt abandoned, and I've definitely been dealing with that throughout my whole life, growing up without a father and stuff. And then my pastor, who was a huge father figure in my life, wound up passing away on a motorcycle accident when I was 18. certainly limited the father figures I had in my life. There was like, Jim Galloway, Paul Converse, Steve Herr. There's a few men that were still, Ron McHale, Gary Crane, which were like, men that I had grown up in church with that I guess just saw something in me that was worth pouring into and tried. Anyway, of course, through me smoking pot and all that type of stuff, probably about halfway through high school, 16, 17, I get my permit and I'm able to drive. And church was like, not really a thing for me. I grew away from that real quick because, I'm smoking pot. People are kind of like not so open and welcoming, to say the least, because of the choices that I'm making, which is understandable, And I just wasn't really seeking that out. Though. Like, I was kind of like over that, kind of lost a lot of belief, a lot of faith, and was just doing my own thing, just kind of joning out, and kept on partying. In 2006, my mom wound up, moving back east and doing that whole thing in August. And shortly thereafterwards, I wound up meeting the mother of my children and my wife, Alicia Leanne Butler Moore. I love you, woman. Oh, I love you so much. And, we met through partying and hustling and got together and, she popped my cherry too. So it was certainly attached to that woman, let alone we had kids together on top of it. So, oh yeah, she's my soulmate. But anyway, so I meet up with her and, we wind up connecting and I think it's like 3 months into our relationship, we find out that we were pregnant with Haley and Alicia had certainly not grown up in the same type of lifestyle that I had. Like she is, I'd say other side of the tracks, very, very hard life from a very young age, and it certainly had some effects on our relationship. We were constantly fighting and arguing, especially both of us, drinking pretty heavily. Alcoholism was definitely a huge factor in the domestic violence that was going on within our relationship. It was certainly abusive, verbally and physically. Although it wasn't really till later that it became more physical. But anyway, I remember, I'll never forget. So we had just found out that we're pregnant with Haley, and we were laying on the floor at my dad's old place up in Concow. And I just remember being so Twitter-pated and just caught up in the moment, so in love, and just knowing that I'm going to have this new family. And growing up without a dad, it's so important for me to have like this whole family unit, and be a good daddy and all that stuff. And I asked her to marry me, and I don't, screw any fancy thing, like right here, right now. Like, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, And we made that commitment to each other right then and there. And man, that's little did I know how much that would factor into the rest of my life and things that would happen. Anyway, things keep going. We wound up moving into a place down at the Rancho Vista Apartments, and through our alcoholism and all that stuff, I think Haley was like 3 months old when we got our first domestic, and I wound up going to jail. And I remember coming out of jail, maybe it's the next one, Now it's the next time that we wound up getting a domestic. Anyway, so I go to jail and come back out and, find out that she had been with this other dude, and so hurt and broken from it, and it was kind of like a repetitive thing in our life, you know what I mean? And especially at the time, I was so young And I think especially in not having a dad and not seeing, not really getting shown this example, let alone I was just so young. I did not know what it meant to be a husband and a dad and like really honor those relationships and lift them up to the best possibility that I could, you know what I mean? Like I just had no idea, still so caught up with myself and, my dreams of the future and what I wanted to do and all that type of stuff, and kind of naive to the fact that, when you have children, and are doing life with a family, your own personal desires go on the back burner, while if family stuff comes first, at least in my opinion, that's it's my job as a leader of the family, and as a daddy and as a husband, as a son, to lead by that example. And for a lot of my life, I really sucked at it. A lot of it was just like all this pain that I was hanging on to from like not growing up without a father, not knowing who I was, and trying to just like find myself. And anyway, so we tried to make it work for a while, but eventually, we split up because, we were pretty toxic at the time. And my unconditional love for that woman and my hope and dreams to always have a family, constantly would get me to a point where I'd still, do anything to try and make it work, and a couple years went by. We had Haley September 22nd, 2007. And then we had all the struggles in life, and grew apart for a while and then came back together before having my son Samuel, or our son Samuel. And he was born 3/14/2011. And I was going through probation at the time. I had to go through rehab while, Haley was really young. Haley wound up going to live with Alicia's mom because she was local. So she went and stayed with her for a while. And they definitely got some bonds and attachments, going from like 3 months old to about a year old. She was with her grandma and I was going through rehab and came out and got my shit together. Alicia's kind of, just doing her thing, I think she's just really lost, trying to find herself too, and wanting the love and attention that I should have been given to her, but I definitely wasn't at the time, so I understand why I had certainly pushed her away. Although at the time I certainly didn't. I thought I was the best thing that ever happened to her. I'm like, man, what the hell? Why don't you get it? That's such a selfish and self-centered way of looking at it. Come to find out, she was the best thing that ever happened to me, her and my children. Anywho, so we wound up getting pregnant again. Like she's going through rehab and stuff now. I graduated and all that shit and got off probation, and we wind up having Sam, and she was in rehab in Sacramento and with her half sister Jenny, and we tried to make it work again, right? And it's good for a while, man. We have Sam, and for a couple years we're doing the family thing. I'm like living up in what's it called? Living up in Kelly Ridge here in Orville and renting from this dude Dave Hayward. Life was pretty good, had a decent job and, but still fell back into, smoking pot always there, and fell back into drinking, as soon as I was off probation. It was like, yay, I'm working so hard so I could party again, and getting away with partying where I could, and little did I know that, you really can't get away with shit. God knows, can't get away with nothing. Better to just do the right thing. So anyway, we have Sam. And let me recap a little bit. So there's some other really gnarly experiences that happened to me. Like when I was 18, I remember being on top of Table Mountain, just like And this is where it's going to get bizarre. I know you might be like, man, Chriso, you are batshit crazy. And boy, I tell you what, sometimes I seriously question that. But with the amount of affirmation that God keeps giving me, I know I'm on the right path. But anyway, so side note. So I was up on the top of Table Mountain at one time and just kind of looking up at the stars, and my friends are smoking blunts and shit. And I look up there and the stars like dancing around, right? And it has like multiple colors like kind of flashing around. I'm like, man, what the hell is that? You know? And it looks like a freaking UFO, right? And this sucker winds up like shooting around and coming down, then coming way over, and winds up landing over in this field by where we were parked at top of Table Mountain. There's like this pullout you can park at. And it's like hovering way out over in this field. And I swear to God, just like straight out of Star Trek, like, see this light open up at the bottom of it, and like this light being just like comes down, and it's just like this fully illuminated being, and it just kind of looked like it's hunched over, right? Just kind of hunched over, walking around looking for something on the ground. I'm like, man, what the hell is that? Let's go check that shit out. That shit is crazy, right? And my boys that were with it, like, hell no, I ain't gonna go check that out. I was like, what is that? You know, like, ain't you trying to get abducted? And I don't know. It was just a very fascinating thing. Anyway, the thing walked around for a little while, then went back underneath the ship. Light opens up, light goes up, shoots off into outer space. Don't see it no more. And that was the beginning of me really being like, holy smokes, what the heck was that? And I am a believer that there are celestial beings, you know, universe, pretty big, vast place. And I'm not so convinced they're from out there. I think they might be from right here, but I don't know. That's all unknown stuff. I won't dive into all that too much. But it was just something that really stuck out in my life, and I would have more experiences from there on of that. And so I wanted to like make sure I pointed that out, and how I had this experience at a younger age. That just kind of left me really fascinated and curious and wondering. And so anyway, so life keeps going on, and you know, I'm still, you know, partying and drinking and, you know, getting into psychedelics like mushrooms and LSD and stuff like that. And, which I was not on when I saw the spaceship, just so you know. Except sure that's going through everyone's head. I'm like, oh yeah, you were just high as shit. You seeing shit. No. We don't make you see shit like that. Even LSD or mushrooms, I've never seen something that wasn't there actually just like appear, ever. So, in my personal opinion, that wasn't the case. But, you know, everyone's free to their own opinion. Anyway, so jumping back up. So we have Samuel, you know, life's good for a while. And one of the things that also stuck out to me when we were living up in Kelly Ridge, my dad, who would become my dad, Alicia calls him dad too. His name's Kenny Daniel, one of the best men I know. Thank you so much, Kenny, for loving me and accepting me into your family. I really appreciate you for that. It's definitely been very meaningful for me individually, and a huge impact on my life, and I appreciate that. So anyway, Kenny had turned me on to the thing called The Secret, right? Which is like energy attracts like energy. It's the law of attraction. And I remember just kind of messing around with that when I was up in Kelly Ridge. You know, the dude I was renting from, Dave, he had this hot rod. It was a 1972 International pickup truck, 1210 series. And he had pulled the engine and tranny and stuff, and wound up putting a 1954 331 Hemi in it. And I wound up putting a TCI 727 Street Fighter transmission in there, and 5,000 RPM stall converter, all this other shit. And it had a hydraulic lift on the stock bed, so I could just like lift the bed up and like work on exhaust or drive shaft and stuff like that. And looked pretty awesome, right? So anyway, as I'm like living there and fishing with Dave and stuff, we do a lot of bass fishing and stuff like that. And we're always like bullshitting, right? I'm using the law of attraction. One of the things they said, imagine, put your hands around the steering wheel and imagine the feeling that it's yours already, And so I'm doing stuff like that, or I would like sit out on the porch of our place and like be smoking a cigarette and like trying to visualize it sitting, in my driveway. And just having faith, that just doing that, like the universe will make it happen, which was kind of a far-fetched idea for me at the time. I was like, well, I don't know, but we'll see. Let's try it. So anyway, I just come back from fishing with Dave, it was months later and stuff. And I had some bass I was going to fry up. And Sam's like 3 months old. He's sleeping in his bassinet in the living room. And it's a double-wide mobile home and stuff. Anyway, I turn on the oil and I go out into the garden and I was going to pick some zucchini flowers. I was going to fry with it too. And smoking a joint, got sucked into like pulling weeds and just, sucked into messing with the garden. And I remember just getting this really weird feeling that I should call my dad, Kenny. And I was like, that's weird. And the only other time I'd had this weird feeling like this was a time I had this weird feeling I should go see my Uncle Jeff. And I ignored that feeling and wound up going down to see him a week later and found out that he wound up dying a week prior. And I was like, holy shit, man, I should have listened to that feeling. So anyway, getting this feeling to go call Kenny, I'm like, okay, I got to listen to this. I don't want to deal with that again. That was horrible. And as soon as I opened the door, I realized that the oil I had forgotten about and is on fire, and my kitchen is on fire. And, my son's sleeping in the living room and I'm like freaking out. So I turn the stove off and, it's pretty much just a torch going from the pot to the ceiling, pull it off of the stove and moving it when air hits oil, come to find out it'll like explode and boil over. So I don't know how well you can see this, but I want to frying my finger. You can kind of see it's a little weird, but pretty much right on down that line, and then it curved over. But all that was like down to the bone, all this over here, right? Super bad, swelled up like this, all the skin, and then sagging off. Horrible. Boy, it hurt. Anyway, through that whole experience, Dave wound up finding out that he hadn't had any insurance on his rentals for the past 5 years and just had no idea. He's doing the insurance thing to get coverage. He's also a general contractor. So we're just going to fix it, and whatever. But anyway, I had renter's insurance through AAA and that my mom had gotten me. Thank you, Mom. Always looking out. And they wound up covering everything. So Dave's like, well, hey, I'll just put in the bid for what we need to do. We wound up just like taking down the cabinets and sanding them and painting them. And then, wiping down all the smoke damage, replacing clothing, replacing food and stuff like that. And anyway, Dave's like, hey kid, you saved my ass with that, with the renter's insurance, so since you did that, we'll take away whatever the costs are up front for repairs, and whatever's left over, I'll split with you, since you really saved my ass. I'm like, no, just give me the truck, Dave. And he giving me shit again. Oh, no, kid, I want $8,000 for that truck. There ain't no way. It ain't going to be that money. No. And we bullshit back and forth on this for a while. Well, a couple months later, he gets a check from AAA, and he calls me up, and he says, hey, kid, I finally got a check from AAA. And I'm going to be true to my word, and you can come get half. It's $16,001. So you can come get your half or you can come get your truck. Which one you want? And I said, I want the truck, So I'm like, manifesting all this, using this law of attraction. I'm just like blown away, ecstatic that, holy shit, it worked. It worked. I didn't have to do a damn thing. It was paid to get put in my name. So tell me it don't work. I don't believe it. It works. It works. And that was like my first experience with that, and it still took me a while to really like understand more of that. And like, I guess even now recently, like I'm really trying to intentionally, develop vision and get those feelings and manifest a different thing in my life. But anyway, that was a big thing for me, right? Like really stuck out big time. Um, so anyway, life goes on. We still like, Alicia and I are still together, still trying to make it work. Still a pretty toxic relationship. I'm still, drinking quite a bit, and I'm also blackout drunk. And I tell you what, I am nothing nice when I am blackout, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, straight up. And man, I tell you, there's nothing worse in my own personal experience than like waking up the next day and hearing about things that I did and getting walked around on this parade of like my rampage and the things I destroyed and the shit that I said to people that I care about. And one just kind of not believing, like, really? I did that? Nah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, you did, asshole. And I'm like, probably like 22 or 25 or something like that. And it still didn't really sink in, that like how detrimental that was and how important it is for me to like, shouldn't be doing that. Alcohol and me just don't get along, man. That's not the person I want to be, and it continued for a long time up through 36, like I'm really right now, like just so done with, the pathological repetitive shit that I've been doing in my life and how it winds up affecting my spirit and my state of mind, to the point to how I'm treating and caring for those around me that I truly love and care about. And I don't want to be that asshole anymore, so I'm finally committed to doing something different, and looking forward to see it manifest a lot more. So anyway, going back a little bit, so I think Sam was probably about 2 or something like that, maybe 1.5, probably 2, maybe 3 even. And things are just so bad with me and Alicia between what's going on. We're constantly fighting, and we wind up separating again, and I was still trying to, deal with my own stuff. And then, it incredibly affected my kids, them not being with their mom. And I would still try to like make that happen. Like, hey, they want to see you, can we get something going on? And we would do that. And then like, my kids, like I'd start noticing a lot of lashing out and acting out and stuff, I think just because of, the emotions and feelings that they were going through because of like, mom not being there. And then when mom was there, whether or not, and I don't know about if this is the case, but whether or not it was, enough time that they got to have with their mom, or just sparking the idea of like being with mom and the pain that brought up because she wasn't there all the time. Or maybe that the time that they had wasn't as quality as they wanted, or times where, mom wound up not being able to show up because she didn't have a ride or whatever. And eventually I wound up getting to the point where I believe it's the right thing to do. Like I got a job opportunity through some folks with my mom back east. And I went out there for a little bit to check it out. And God really put it on my heart, like this is something I should do. I should check it out, and I thought it was the right thing to do. And to a degree, it was. I had some of the greatest experiences of my life in moving out there. But I also, one of the biggest regrets I have, because, it is not good to separate parent and child. This has serious effects on children. Even though I was trying to do the right thing by them, this had serious effects on my children that I would come to see later on after we moved to Maryland. So anyways, I think we're finally up to 2017. And 2017, I wound up moving to Maryland and doing life out there. Wound up being able to work with these people, Nick and Molly, at this place called Fresh Healthy Cafe, which wound up being one of the best experiences of my life. I had never grown so much in my life or been exposed to um, the amount of knowledge and experiences and the type of people that I was dealing with. And through working with Fresh, eventually, like I wound up, so like their whole mission statement was like to create a positive impact in the community through the doors of business. And they did that by developing their people. And by developing people, when you have happy, healthy people working for you, you create this environment that is just so attractive. Like, I remember people were coming up to him being like, hey, man, I will pay you my daughter's salary and then some if she can come work at your store, because we hear about this influence that you're having on these people and that like how people are just flourishing, growing. We would like our kid to have that experience. And they said, well, that would be really great, but I just finished doing my last hire. I can't do that right now. But next time it comes around, of course we'll consider that. And, money's not necessary. That's certainly not what Nick and Molly were about. They, really awesome, beautiful people. Taught me a lot of, I guess to go over some of the stuff they were doing. Like a lot of it was just like leadership development, which everyone's a leader. There's always someone out there that looks up to you, whether you realize it or not. So everyone's a leader. It's just, what you're doing with it, how you leading yourself. So a lot of things that I learned that I had never had before was things like brave communication or healthy communication, like how to set healthy boundaries. That was something that I never really experienced in my life. It's kind of like I never really experienced that two-way street of communication, setting healthy boundaries and things like that. Budgeting, and then we wound up doing like all sorts of other, like on a personal level, we did like the 5 love languages, disc testing, strength finders, developing the leader within you, Kylo, which was curriculum based out of from Bethel up in Reading, is keep your love on. Oh man, by Danny Silk, that was his name. Brave communication. Oh man, I'm having a brain fart. I can't remember the guy that does that, but oh my gosh, it's like across the board, just like good. I don't care about your religious background or any of that, because these are also like they're spiritual people, and some of it was like spiritual based curriculum, and sometimes I get hooked on that G word, like oh God, kind of build up those walls because how much it was kind of like shoved down my throat as a kid. Although through my experiences in life, I definitely without a doubt, there's God. So anyway, grow more than I ever have in my life. Wound up getting into their leadership, and really growing. Wound up becoming a manager of Fresh and learning how to really develop myself as a leader and develop my leadership team that I had there, and just like developing myself and developing other people. Leader is a change agent. You got to keep on changing, stay in that leadership position. And I remember chapter 3 of that in John Maxwell's book. It was on integrity, and it's like you are who you are, no matter who's around. It doesn't matter. You're going to be the same person. And that certainly was not me at the time. If no one was around, I would probably make the wrong choice if I thought I could get away with it, because I was just, I suffer from selfish self-centeredness, which usually leads me to a point of incomprehensible demoralization. And that's no way to live from my personal experience. Anyway, growing with Nick and Molly, things are great, a couple years in, and I'm like just really still stuck in that selfishness and self-centeredness and like stuck on material things, and wanting things. And I wound up embezzling a lot of money from them. And I was able to do it in such a way where, they couldn't prove anything, but they knew, you know. And that led to, of course, them having to set some healthy boundaries with me, which they did. And even out of love, still then, they chose not to press any charges. But obviously they had to set some healthy boundaries, protect themselves and their business. And man, I just felt so horrible that I would betray the trust of these people that I cared about so much. It was like really wondering what the fuck, man, how did I get to this point? And I didn't come clean on that until after I came back to California. And the guilt and shame that I wound up taking on from all that, boy, it really fucked me up. And I really wound up hitting alcohol real bad just because I just did not like how it felt to feel. And just kind of trying to run away from myself, and it got me even more lost. It got me way more lost, and we're back here is now. So I'm wrong. I messed up some numbers back there. So it's 2014 when we went to Maryland, 2017 when we moved back. So I came back from Maryland and, just get kind of hooked up with old cronies and other things. And, the weed thing's kind of really going on at the time. And it just become recreational. And I got into that scene and doing grows and stuff like that. Still so caught up in myself and feeling so much guilt and shame and drinking a lot and single daddy in it still. And I really started being a shitty dad. A few different times where, my kids fighting, lied about something, and I'd spank them, over spank them like crazy, left bruises. Really hurt my kids physically and emotionally. And you think I felt fucked up from the guilt and shame from the Nick and Molly thing, man? This really sent me out there. Through the whole experience, my kids wanted being taken from me to protect them from that. And I tried fighting that, fighting my case, because there were some things that were a little blown out of control, but I'm not going to get into all that. It's irrelevant. And September 14th, 2017 was the last time I saw my kids. And today it's April 7th. Now I have seen my kids since then. But for a couple years, I did not see my children. I'd hardly be able to talk to them on the phone. And my kids were my life, I never would intentionally hurt my kids ever, but through my alcoholism and addiction and, then also acting out when frustrated or angry, I wasn't able to control myself well, and I was a bad fucking dad. Haley and Sam, I'm so sorry. Alicia, you too, I'm so sorry. I just didn't know. I was so lost. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. despite getting a lot of healing and trying to process a lot of this stuff, it still really hurts. I'm still really like working towards that. But anyway, so through this process, uh, I wind up, lose the kids, get back on probation. Towards the end of it, they're like, oh, well, I fought it for a couple of years and we're getting ready to go to trial. And they're like, well, they're going to put the kids on the stand. I said, no, this could not happen. My kids have been through enough. No. So I wound up taking a deal and was supposed to get visitation after 12 weeks of this parenting class that I needed to do. And first day I wound up getting put on probation. The day before I wound up going to see my probation officer. And he asked me if we're going to have any problems. I'm like, man, I've had my 215 since I was like 17. And it's going to be difficult for me to stop smoking weed. Well, anyway, long story short, he shows up the next day at 9 a.m. and I'm like not expecting it at all. Smoking my last blunt, and my boy John's there with me and he's like, dude, cops are here. I'm like, what? Yeah, cops here. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I panic, run into the bathroom, flush my bag, flush the blunt, smoking as shit in the house, too. By the time I'm done with that, like, my PO's knocking on the bathroom door, like, Chris, come on out. I know you're in there. And so I come out, and he's like, what's up? What's going on? I'm like, man, I smoked my last blunt. I fucking panicked, man. I flushed my bag. I'm sorry, dude. I fucked up. And man, boy, this dude was a hard ass, man. Like, although thank you, Rick. As much as I am frustrated with you at times, everything happens for a reason, and I do understand where you were coming from. But, it's like, well, if you were honest with me and just would have, come out, then this could have just been a 10-day flash, no violation. But since you hit and went and flushed it, you're going to get a violation. And so my very first day, violation of probation, 30 days in jail. I don't know, that was kind of harsh because even as soon as I came out, I'm like, oh man, I fucked up. I panicked, blah, blah, blah. I would have thought that would have, showed something, but no, he's a stickler. Anyway, after doing the 12 weeks of so I get violation and all that stuff, go do 30 days, come out. And I want to, I get through, my 12 weeks out of a 52-week class for child endangerment and parenting. And because I had firearms and stuff on the grow. That's not legal in California. Even though they registered to me, I was legit at the time, I was allowed to have them. Big no-no. So I had all sorts of charges, all this time kind of hanging over my head. And after doing these classes, I petitioned the courts, to get visitation there. So there wanted to be this weird snafu, as everything is going down, there would have been a CPS case, but the gal that came out to deal with everything happened to be, had gone to high school with my kids' grandma. And, by the grace of God, if she would have opened a CPS case, my kids would then have to go into the system, and then Trisha have to go through all the motions to then get custody of the kids, and at that point in time, so my mom moved back with us. She retired from her thing in Maryland. She moved back here with us, and she had just finished moving back out she moved to Rome, Italy, where she was working with Mr. Michael Beasley and the Global Food Program with the United Nations. So she's on this 5-year contract with all that. So she couldn't have been there to try to get the kids. So Trisha winds up getting the kids. And so the gal winds up not opening up a CPS case and just leaving the kids with grandma because they had gone over there to stay the night for the weekend when all this had happened. And that kind of left a loophole because then there's no CPS kind of the liaison between guardians, and then also family law and criminal courts. And that was like a big issue that I had, is like one wouldn't change a restraining order for the other unless, family law wasn't going to do anything unless criminal law did something, and criminal court wouldn't do anything unless family law did something. And for whatever reason, they couldn't communicate for shit. And I continuously got denied to have visitation with my children. The first one after the 12 weeks, even though I was already charged with my violation, they're saying like that was the basis for it, was that, because I had this violation for smoking pot, that that was good enough reason that it would be in the best interest of my children for me to not be there or have any visitation. Which, come to find out, that's actually illegal, because I already got sentenced and punished for my violation. So that would be doing that again. There's laws on that, come to find out. So that was illegal, but whatever. It is what it is. System's kind of fucked up. I think we should reform some things. It's kind of also a part of this. But anyway, like, all of this is 110% my fault. I could have been carrying myself different and living a different life to where none of this would have been an issue. So I'm not by any means trying to push blame or anything like that. I'm just saying, through my experiences, I think there's some things that could be done better. And I'll get into that. Anyway, of course, the time goes on, like I wound up having to move out of my place that was out in the country in Cherokee, and having to move into Southside Orville, and, still stuck in my alcoholism and just so broken and fucked up with this guilt and shame from this past experiences that I've been going through. And wound up getting hooked up with old people, and wound up started using meth. And that's just like to balance my alcoholism, get too drunk, and I'll go smoke a little meth, and then constantly this balancing act of, balancing out. And it didn't balance out nothing. It just made it all worse. And I remember getting my first violation for that, because at first, so I finally stopped smoking weed, because I'm like, man, my PO ain't playing. He's going to violate me. And that shit stays in your system. So I'm like, well, alcohol and meth, they don't really stay in your system very long. So I'm like, I can do this, get away with it. And that happened for a while, but eventually, my addiction became so bad that, couldn't hide that shit, wound up giving it dirty. And it's interesting, because for that, I wound up getting a 10-day flash. I'm like, man, this is so ass backwards. But anyway, I get a 10-day flash, and then, life keeps going on. I get a couple more violations, for dirty meth, and do some violations and stuff. And I'm still struggling, and just like, so I'm at like my 47th class for parenting. And in that, they're teaching me about how detrimental it is that when you sever the bonds and attachments between parent and child, especially if that's prolonged over a period of time, that this will literally slow down the brain development of the child, their ability to develop social connections and lasting, meaningful relationships, amongst other things, And so I go in there and I petition the courts again after many other times. I'm like, hey, man, supposed to get visitation with my kids. It's supposed to be part of my deal. What's going on, And they denied me again, and I'm like, which I get it, I was, I'd had prior dirties, for meth. I get that. But I'm just like, hey, man, like, let's set it up with CPS to where there's a liaison or something. Like, I'll go pee, let me just have supervised visits, please. But again, because there was no CPS case set up, supposedly they just wound up sending someone out to go talk to grandma on their mom's side, and after talking with her, she said they only sent someone out once, and I petitioned the courts at least seven times for visitation. Many a times I would go back to court, and then it would get continued because no one had gone out to talk to anyone yet. And so I seriously question if they just lied and if they sent anyone at all, But anyway, regardless of all of that, so they denied me again, and I fucking lost my shit, man. I just like, I was having a hard time seeing like how, like, like how is this like right? How is this the right thing to do? Like I kind of like lost faith in humanity and myself, and had a mental breakdown, and just like really, really went hard into drugs and alcohol. And lost my place, became homeless, and really was like, became that tweaker on the streets you see, where it was like, oh man, that dude lost it, And I did. I lost it. And over a period of time, like that just kept compounding. Anyway, I wound up running my dad after some time, and then this was after the campfire and all that stuff. I hadn't seen him really since then. Everyone got separated from all that. And he invited me to come back up to the property that he was staying with and be around these people that were just a bunch of really good, positive, loving people. And it's through those experiences of being surrounded with love and acceptance, even if it might have been a little judgmental at times because of how far out there I had gone. It really changed my life, constantly. This is what's constantly been a change in my life, it's like being surrounded by unconditional love, people that really just hope and want the best for me. Like that has just always made me want to be a better person so I could be there better for those around me, and obviously alcoholism and drug addiction has not been very conducive to that, to say the least. So I'm up here and I'm still, just battling with meth, battling with alcohol, just like, like I want to getting like just like so beaten down because I'm like, man, like really starting to like take identity with the shame and guilt that I have, and just starting to believe lies that, that I'm just this constant fuck up and will never amount to anything. And that, everyone probably just be better off without me. They won't have to deal with any more pain anymore. Being hurt by me anymore, and I should probably just check out, just go get a gun, fucking kill myself, and they'll be better off, and I really was starting to believe that for a while, and it's, boy, I was so fucked up spiritually. Worst experience of my life. And I remember in the midst of that, I'm just like, crying out to God to cure me or kill me, man. Because I'm tired. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore, And I think it's also around that time, it was like 2019, it was 2020, I'd gotten turned on to some other things. We're going to get back into some alien stuff a little bit, with Dr. Stephen Greer's Unacknowledged, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Also standing for CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is really just intentionally, with your mind, reaching out to higher beings or celestial beings. I've had some pretty trippy experiences with that as well, which definitely have been all a part of this. I don't know per se if it, like, personally, I think this is God and angels that I've been seeing and stuff like that. Definitely celestial beings of a way higher realm than what I understand, for sure. And I have got so much healing. It is incredible. I never would have thought, like, in some of these times, like, I'm eating mushrooms or LSD, and then like intentionally with my mind trying to contact these higher level beings, and just, with love and intention, just like, hey, if there's anything out there, if you be of love and good intention and are willing to bring knowledge or share anything with me, I'm open and willing, And like, here's some things, I'm really fucked up on these things, and I don't like these patterns that are going on in my life, and who I'm becoming, and if you could help me with that, I'd appreciate it. I'm willing, I'm open and to accept that, and through some of those experiences, like direct contact with angels and God, that's just like unbelievable shit. Really blew my mind. But I'm not going to dive into that too much. I know that's pretty controversial for a lot of people. The main thing that I'm going for out of this thing is like, the difference of life when you're living in fear and walking, like living in fear and lies, or walking in truth and love, which I believe that's what God is truth and love. The enemy is fear and lies, and the battle of good and evil goes on within everybody, and as above, so below, as within, so without. So, it happens on different levels throughout, like, the spectrum, if that makes any sense, for lack of a better way of putting it. And it's all about which wolf you're going to feed. There's an old native parable. A grandfather sitting there with his grandson, and he's telling his grandson, there's this battle that goes on between these two wolves within everyone, and one is black and it's dark and it seeks evil and lust and greed and all these things. And the other is white and pure and seeks love, kindness and peace and joy. And the little boy looks up at his grandpa and says, well, which one wins, Grandpa? And he says, the one you feed. And that's been such a profound thing in my life, because I'm seeing that, like, life really is all about spirituality. Like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's all about what you feed your spirit, as to, you reap what you sow, so what are you feeding your spirit, And to say the least, in the darkest hour of my life, I was like feeding some pretty dark things, like literally thinking about how to kill certain people because it just felt so hurt and angry, which is the wrong way to, like, that's like the worst thing you could do. Like, that's the ultimate form of control, is to take life. This is wrong. We really have no place to judge anyone. Just judge yourself, if anything. It's one thing to judge. It's another thing to be judgmental, because I think everyone judges to, some degree. And that's good to have a healthy, view of oneself, or to look over oneself and see, hey, what could one do better, but to look at others and then, and I think everyone still does that too. But it's another thing. It's one thing to think those things and try to be there, but it's another thing to be judgmental. We're like, oh, hey, you're doing this wrong, and this is what you need to do. That's being judgmental. That's I don't think that's right. But anyway, I'm not going to dive too much into that one either. So, going through all this, I started really getting these healings from the CE5 experience, and praying and talking with God, and really got me back focused on the law of attraction and stuff like that, and that I can manifest and create my own reality. And, what am I going to do, and I had just been so caught up in fears, like, I want to, so like, I'm still absconding right now. I'm getting ready to set up my court date so I can go turn myself in and deal with this, because I know that until I deal with the legal aspect of this, there's no way that I can start developing a life with my family again, and trying to be that man and be that leader for my family, for myself first and foremost. Maybe if I can do it for myself good enough, then I can do it for my wife. Maybe I do that well, and I do it for our kids. Now we already have kids already, so not quite the order that would be ideal, especially in some of the teachings that Dr. Jordan Peterson's talking about in the Invitation to the Future and the ARC and stuff like that. But very relevant nonetheless either way. And oh, sorry, I lost train of thought there a little bit. I had a brain fart. Anyway, so through all that, I'm now getting to the point where, I'm done. Like, I was like, just like looking back and reflecting on things in my life, and in this new sense of spirituality that I've come to believe in, and like senses of God, it's like I'm kind of trying to break it down to like, what's the root thing that I'm dealing with right here? And so much of my decisions were just based out of fear. Like I'm just constantly living in fear of like what could happen in the future, like because of the possibility of how much time I could do in prison, and stuff like that. And like just so afraid. And this is not the way to live. That is especially what got me to the point of like constantly living in that state. Like it got me to the point where I was really, I went and got a gun and I was ready to kill myself. And wound up getting blackout drunk again, and left where I was, and haven't dealt with this yet, but wound up getting a DUI, hit and run, felon in possession of a firearm. And I was afraid, right? Because I'm like, oh shit, they're going to catch me like this. I've been scouting for a couple of years. I'm definitely going to prison. So I just grab all my shit and run. I'm still running from all that new shit that I have to go face too. So I'm like, I'm really scared about going to deal with the courts, because like, oh my God, it is a lot of time I could be facing. So much, like, if they really wanted to, 20 plus years I could be dealing with, scares the fuck out of me. But that's not the way to live, and through these experiences and talking with God and angels, and these celestial beings, whatever you want to label it as, it's been really getting me to show that I need to walk in truth and love. And from previous experiences in my life, I know for a fact that when you make that switch and you walk in truth and love, the universe will open doors and make ways, and miracles will happen. Like I can't explain it other than that. Which I do think is part of the law of attraction, but it is like profound, the things that can happen. And so that's kind of what I want to show by all this. Here pretty soon, like within the next week or so, I will have a court date set on calendar to where I'll be going to turn myself in, and, just kind of pleading my heart to the judge and let him know where I'm at, and hope to God that they allow me a chance to be on probation, and that they'll see that, I'm really making some changes in my life, and give me a chance to really walk in that, although I probably don't deserve that. Either way, going to deal with it is going to be the beginning of me finally living in freedom and walking in truth and love again. Because until I go and deal with this thing, I'm always going to have that fear looming over my head of like, if I get driving with someone and they get pulled over for a traffic infraction or whatever, and I get caught up, I'm going to go to prison, and it's like, then it's like, you weigh the different thoughts, like, well, maybe I just stay out and I just keep running, and maybe I could create decent enough of a life and just kind of stay on the down low. But that leaves opportunity to where something could happen, and that I just get yanked away from my family again. And I can't let them go to that trauma again, or myself. I can't do that. That's wrong. And I think it's especially wrong, for anybody, for that matter, to be holding children from their parents. Like, so I've been talking with my kids since then. There's been a lot of traumatic things that are going on with my children that I'm not going to go into too much, but all the things that they were showing me in my parenting classes, like really happening, especially some of the cycles that happen of, addiction and stuff like that that's going on with my daughter, to where it's like got me to the point where I'm like, I can't fucking do this anymore. I can't keep running from myself. I can't keep allowing this shit to happen to my kids. This shit's wrong, and there needs to be change. Positive change needs to happen so that I can be there for my children. And that's what's finally driven me to the point where I'm like just done with drugs and alcohol. I'm just so over it. It's not anything that's going to be conducive for me being a good individual and a good son, a good husband, a good dad. So that's where I'm going. And I look forward to being able to share the documentary with you guys. There's going to be a documentary I'm working on that's like going to kind of cover all of this and the process of dealing with court and stuff like that. And really show in a tangible way that, when you switch that mindset of going from living in fear and lies to truth and love, that, there's an infinite amount of possibility that will open up, and God will do miracles in your life. And it's a really beautiful thing. I encourage anyone that's watching this, if there's any doubts that you have or anything like that, whether you believe in God or not, God believes in you. I believe God is truth and love. And I encourage you to walk in that and not live in fear. I don't know how it has been for your experience, but I would encourage you to reflect on how has that been in your life? Where has that gotten you in your life? And what do you want out of it? From this whole experience, what I'm coming to find is the most important thing in life is the time you spend with those you love, and after having so much time cut out of my life from that, and slowly starting to develop some of that again with my wife, with my kids, it's really gotten to show me that my family is more important to me than anything else in this lifetime. And now I'm just trying to change myself, and just continue to walk in unconditional love, and love myself unconditionally, love them unconditionally, and hope and pray for the best, and, all I can do is control myself. I can't control anyone else, to do so is not a very good outcome of life. That's not doing life together. That's one of the examples Jordan Peterson says of that. It's like, you got a friend next door, but they won't play with you unless their mom tells them they got to go play with you, which isn't going to be fun for either of you. Want to do this on a invitation only thing. Like I've been working on that with my wife and my kids a lot right now. It's like, hey man, like I want to do life with you. I have some really beautiful dreams of the future I want to make manifest, but you got to make the choice to want to do that with me, and I don't want to push that. I want this to be someone willing, a willing participant, actively seeking to go that way, not me pushing anything down anyone's throat or anything like that. That's, and I believe we need to have these changes, not just on an individual level. I think in my opinion, like we need to have these changes on like a government level and stuff like that. Like the justice system, in my opinion, is not really just anymore. It's been industrialized to where it is there to make money. And how can it be just if there's those things, And I'm sure many people out there can relate to that. And the oppression that is coming from it, rather than the healing and the nurturing and the building up of people so that we do have a better community, And how does that happen? How do we do that? That's kind of like a big part of my stuff too, And one of the things that I've been working on for a long time, since way back in the day, probably when I was still at Maryland, is on or shortly after I came back, before all my stuff went crazy, I had like these different dreams and stuff about, like I really liked the growth and develop thing that I was doing with Nick and Molly. Like pretty much I was a dream manager. If you're not familiar with that, check out the book by Michael Kelly. It's a really, really good book. But anyway, that's pretty much what I'm doing. It was really awesome, but we're also running a restaurant, and like that kind of got in the way. I'm like, yeah, screw that. I just want to do like the personal growth and development. That was like, I'm really passionate about that. I really enjoy it. Definitely lines up with my strengths and all that stuff too. And anyway, so like, how do I make change? I'm in the process of working on this nonprofit called AMP, or the acronym is AMP, which stands for the Alternative Mentorship Program, which really will just be an organization that's set up with a bunch of dream managers to where if you want to grow in life, there will be dream managers / life coaches that will be there with the resources to help people grow into the best versions of them that they could be. And I'm going to start out here locally, but I mean, in my personal opinion, from my experiences, I've never seen or experienced personally more growth than through this platform that I was working in with Nick and Molly. And I think that should be offered to everyone without, we have such an abundance in this world for those that don't have it or are facing more financial dilemmas than others. I'd like to create an environment where that could be accessible for anybody free of cost, to where if you want to grow, come in, and I think that's really a way that we could start making positive change. One, on the individual level, because if you can't do it individual, how's it going to happen collectively? As above, so below, as within, so without. Maybe just by changing ourselves, we do change the world. Some of these things that I have written down, like, if we change how we govern ourselves, we'll change how we'll be governed. There's just like different sayings and stuff like that just kind of made themselves manifest to me as I've been like going through this process and all that. So anyway, so AMP's one of them, right? Developing that. I think in this documentary where we're going to be showing, me going to court and the results of that, I got to talk with an attorney still about all that, which, if there's anyone out there that might be willing to help in that area, I could certainly use some assistance and guidance in that. It would be very appreciated, although I know God will provide a way. But if that happens to be on anyone's heart as they watch this, please figure out a way to contact me. I guess I'm going to have to figure out how all that's going to happen. But anywho, developing AMP, and really developing myself, because thought plus action is manifestation, and we're meant to have life and life abundantly. I do believe the Bible is very real. And it's taken all of this for me to find like divine purpose in all this. Like the past little bit, I've had some nothing short of supernatural experiences with God and angels where it just keeps telling me like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to go towards. So for example, well, I guess I'll show more of those examples maybe in the video, but a lot of it that it was showing me was, who I am, what I was created to do, which is kind of trippy because I believe we're conscious co-creators with the divine creator. And so, there's endless possibility, I think that's like the cool thing where God gives us choice, it's like, well, you don't have to walk in this, like, especially after getting these like dreams and visions of like what God has got called for me. I'm like, I seriously question, I'm like, well, you bump your rocker, Chris O? You done too much drugs and psychedelics? You just fried out now? Like, you just fucking batshit crazy, or is this real? And as I continue to like move forward, like I just can continue getting affirmation after affirmation after affirmation that God is talking to me right now, and this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is leading up to the epoch of my life. And like, what I'm supposed to be doing, and we'll see. It's really scary. It's not easy to like walk in that. I've certainly created a lot of work for myself to continue to get healing for myself, and sobriety and stuff. Like today is the first day where I'm like, no, nothing, no cigarettes, no weed, no booze, not shit, right? And going cold turkey on many things really sucks, but that's just what I have to do. I have to, and that would be one of the biggest things that I could ever suggest to anyone. Be true to yourself. Who gives a shit what's going on around you, what the masses are doing, or any of that crap? Be true to yourself and what's in here. If you're not, from my experience, you wind up as a divided spirit and living in fear and lies. And I highly don't recommend it. It was really not good for me. Like even before I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself, like I could literally just feel like the spark of life fading out of me. And like, it was a horrible feeling. Like, I don't want to do that. By the grace of God, I've had lots of healing, and that flame has been rekindled and restored, not only for myself, but also for the love that I have with my kids' mom. And actually, in the first go around of this, I stopped in the middle of it because I wanted getting some text messages from her, and I've been constantly trying to, reach out and let her know how much I love her, how much I care about her, and really apologize for, not doing that to the degree that I feel I should have been, and for the amount of hurt that I caused her and pushing her away, and, just seeking healing there, and it's really cool because like, just like so quickly it's all manifesting, like as you'll see more in this documentary that I'm going to do. So in this documentary, I don't know how it's all going to go about. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be asking for a donation from people, which is not going to go for me individually. It's going to go for AMP. Like I want to try to raise some resources so that we can really make that manifest and have some serious amount of resources to like give back to people. And of course I'll be working there. So yeah, like a portion of that will be to like generate a job for me and job for other people, but like the real essence in this is like, to raise some resources to go into like really creating things to make a positive change, individually, and collectively, So we'll see. I'm not really sure on all that still yet. Like I might just all go through because I think people should see this message either way. I think it's really powerful. So maybe it'll just all go out there, and then we'll give people the option to like, hey, donate $1, $5, $10, $20, or other, or some shit like that. I don't know. We'll see how all that goes. So that's it, man. That's where I'm at. And, I'm just kind of on the cusp of everything, It's like this pinnacle. Everything's kind of building up to this, And it's really all going to start coming to fruition once I go to court and turn myself in. So hopefully there'll be a way where we can actually get a camera in there and be able to record everything that happens and my statement to the judge and all that type of shit. Although that's illegal, I do believe, or not allowed unless it's like news, which doesn't really make sense to me. I don't understand. If news has the ability to go in there to record something based off of news, like why the public doesn't have that same freedom, I quite don't understand. Again, whereas like, we need to really reform and change how we're doing things here, man. Like, what can we do to, like, what are we doing as a species? Like, really, is this the best we got? that we're going to fight and war with each other and use the monetary system to have like hierarchy over each other. Like that's the best we got. Like that seems kind of shitty. I think we're capable a lot better than that. But how all that is, how all that all looks, and all that stuff. I don't know. I think it really is going to take people coming together and really like brainstorming on this like our forefathers did, to be like, what's the best possible thing we could do to try to continue to create positive change and move forward and get rid of the things that are obviously destructive that we're doing individually and collectively and judicially, governmentally, educationally, physically, spiritually. That's a lot of stuff to go over. I don't know. But I really look forward to being able to talk to, hopefully, some of the things I'm putting out to the universe. I hope to being able to talk to Dr. Peterson and the other people at this convention. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to use the law of attraction. I'm just going to hope and pray. I'm like, all right, God, I feel like this is on my heart, that I'm going to be a part of the ARC, and I'm going to commit my life to being allied with other responsible citizens to try to bring out the best possible result within my life individually, and then within my family's life, and then hopefully in my community's life, and so on and so forth. And we can make change, man. We can make change, but it's got to happen locally. It's got to happen individually, I believe, before it can happen on larger levels. So thanks for spending some time with me and listening to my story. And I look forward to being with you guys again and showing this next step and everything that's going on from there. Until then, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face to shine on you and lift his countenance on you and give you peace. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. One love.